Hello and welcome to the Cryptocurrency News channel. Now, we gotta ask, after the USDC scare, which stablecoin is likely to go kaput next? Because that could lead to disaster for the cryptocurrency industry. Right now, there are three that I'm interested in looking at. One is USDC, the one that gave us a scare. One is USDT, the biggest one, and that would affect the market the most. And the other one is DAI. DAI is a little complicated, and we'll look at that first. Tether, we kind of know where they're holding their money, but we don't know for sure. USDC, we do know a little bit more certain, so we'll look at these three. Now, you might be saying, well, USDC had that scare and the Bitcoin went up. Yes, but I think long-term effects, it would actually affect crypto liquidity. And DeFi wouldn't grow as fast, so it would be bad for the industry. And I think like just one of the major stablecoins going down, like if it really, really depegged, that would be pretty bad for the industry, although people might move into Bitcoin. But which one of these three can go down first? Let's look at DAI first, because DAI is an over-collateralized stablecoin, and it's actually collateralized bulk by USDC. I think they're changing that right now. It's also collateralized by Paxos dollar, but ever since the SEC tried to shut down BUSD, which is just rebranded Paxo dollar, don't know how that's actually going at this point for DAI. But obviously, if DAI is heavily collateralized by USDC, if USDC goes down, DAI will have trouble, as you saw earlier, because DAI did unpeg when USDC unpegged. The other part is over collateralized by Ethereum, wrapped Bitcoin, which is tied to Bitcoin, and dozens of other cryptocurrencies. I think the dozens of other cryptocurrencies are very, very small. They are BAT, Compound, TrueUSD, ZRX, Mana, Chainlink, Gemini Dollar, and Uniswap. They might be funneling some of the Paxos into TrueUSD. So DAI is kind of composed of other stablecoins. I do think the crypto part of it is over-collateralized, but if the crypto part of it dips too much, we might have an issue. Or if they over-collateralize their USD portion, that actually might be a little bit safer. So essentially, DAI is always a bit of a risk. I've seen it depeg once or twice, a couple of times before, but it's never been serious. I think their collateralization, mostly by stablecoins, gives them some safety, and their over-collateralization on the cryptos gives them even more safety. I think they're actually over-collateralized overall, so that does give them some safety, but it is still somewhat risky because they're not backed one-to-one. Now let's look at USDC and USDT. Now, we're going to look at USDC first, because essentially USDC was the one that gave us the scare last time. They obviously moved their reserves. By the way, their reserves are actually insured by the FDIC right now because they insured SVB, but they moved it from SVB to BNY Mellon. And basically the cash portion is now held primarily at BNY Mellon. The other portion is actually held a lot at BlackRock. BlackRock's not going anywhere. The Fed's got them covered. I'm not really afraid of BlackRock falling apart. BNY Mellon is also one of the biggest banks out there. So I'm not really afraid of BNY Mellon actually falling apart because the government will bail them out, first of all. And also, like, these big, even though it's fractional reserve, these big banks do have a lot of money. So these big international banks, they're unlikely to completely go under and leave people hanging out in the dry. And like I said, governments will actually help bail out these banks. So I'm not actually all that afraid of actual Tether going into catastrophe mode. I mean, not USDC going into catastrophe mode. I actually think they are safer now than they were before, because Silvergate Bank was always more risky than someone like BlackRock or BNY Mellon. And now I think they're even safer than before. So I think that scare for USDC is over, unless there's a massive bank run where all banks are basically wiped out and we have super hyperinflation. Don't think anything's going to happen to USDC. What about USDT? Where are their reserves actually held? Well, a lot of them are held at Cantor Fitzgerald, Capital Union, and Ansbacher. So the thing is, I actually looked these up. Cantor Fitzgerald is an investment fund. They have 12,000 employees and they operate in over 30 countries. They are pretty big. They are actually pretty big. They're headquartered in New York City. They are like a big investment firm and has more than 5,000 institutional clients. So I think the Fed would come and bail them out if they actually got into trouble. So although they're not BlackRock, they're not Fidelity, they're not JP Morgan, they are fairly large. And I don't think like they are very likely to go under because of that. Capital Union is basically, I think it's a little smaller. It's Capital Union Bank. It's actually headquartered in the Bahamas. So there's some good about this and some bad about this. The good is like the aggressive nature of the US SEC and other agencies in the US can't really bring them down. The bad part is the Bahamas are kind of sketchy. Yeah, we all know this. Remember, Sam Bankman-Fried actually was headquartered in the Bahamas. It's headquartered in Nassau, and that is a prime ground for tax evasion. So a little bit of worry there. Not hugely worried, but a little bit of worried there because that can actually go bad at any given time. Capital Union Bank. I don't really exactly know what the distribution is at these banks. And then they have Anbacher. Anbacher, I think, is a smaller company. It's been around since 1996, so it's not like a huge legacy company, but it is kind of like a smaller investing partner. I'm not really sure like about their bailout status if they actually go down. So based on this, because of the bank based in the Bahamas and Nassau, and maybe Anbacher, which is not as big as, say, BNY Mellon and BlackRock, I still actually do think Tether is at slightly higher risk than USDC. I would put DAI at the highest risk because it's actually based on USDC, and there's a bunch of smaller coins, which if they massively dump, that could jeopardize DAI, and it has depegged a couple times before, not very long, so it's fairly safe, but not super safe. Tether would actually come next because Ansbosser and that bank in Bahamas, Capital Union, I don't think are quite as safe as BlackRock and BNY Mellon. Right now, I would still say USDC is the safest. The SVB thing just got kind of unlucky, but USDC did have enough extra reserves, and the government did guarantee that. And I don't really think the government would let BlackRock fail, or would they let BNY Mellon fell. So like, I think USDC is now even safer than before. So I still think USDC is probably number one, Tether's number two, and DAI would be number three because it's dependent on other stablecoins being pegged. So that's my video. Let me know if you disagree, like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button, and I will see you guys later.